And that's my random fact. The king sat on his golden throne, reveling in thoughts about how powerful he was. With a snap of his fingers, he could command his armies to subdue any of the small kingdoms in the country. With a snap of his fingers, he could decide who lived and who died. And with a snap of his fingers, he could make all of his subjects in the kingdom bow down at his feet. He was especially proud of his hunting prowess, because with his bow and arrow, he could bring down any animal he chose. And this is why, when stories came to him about a deer, a male deer, a stag, that lived in the forest nearby that no hunter had ever been able to fell, he was immediately interested and determined that he would have that rack of antlers on the palace wall. So he got his hunting party together. The day was selected, and they went into the forest. Almost the first thing they saw was that magnificent stag drinking peacefully by a pool. The king pulled back his bow and he shot straight. The stag heard the twang of the arrow and disappeared into the forest. The king could not believe that he had missed. And so he rode after that stag. He rode hard, and he would see the stag by a pool, by a river, by a stream, in back of the trees. But he could not fell that stag. The hunting party had long since followed behind, because the king's horse was faster than all of the other horses in the hunting party. So it was him alone, obsessed with killing this stag. He searched, hunted, tried his bow and arrow for hours until he was stopped by a dense thicket and his horse could go no further. He tied the horse to one of the branches, and then he went by foot trying to find that stag. And again, he searched and searched, could not see the stag. He was hot, he was dirty, he was tired, and he was lost. Finally, he saw a river, the mouth of a river, and he thought, oh, some coolness for my body. So he went plunging into the river and realized that this river, this mouth of the river, was filled with quicksand. He could not move his body, and he was sinking into the quicksand. He was too far in to grab any branches or any tree limbs nearby. He closed his eyes. He knew he was going to die. And he started thinking. Images came to him of all of his life and how it had been. As he was thinking, he suddenly heard a rustle in the trees. And he looked up, and there was that magnificent stag, large, golden brown, its rack of antlers nearly as long as its whole body. The stag looked into his eyes. And then very carefully, the stag took some sure steps closer to the king, and then lowered that magnificent rack of antlers to the king. The king grabbed hold of the antlers, and the stag pulled him, dripping, filthy, to the side of the river. The king looked up at the stag and wondered, why would it do this? The stag merely lowered his head to the king and disappeared into the forest. The king sat a long time on the side of the river. And finally, he found his way back to the thicket where his horse was tied. He got himself back to the castle. And the first thing he did was not to get himself clean, not to put on new clothing, but to call for the scribe. He told the scribe to write out a proclamation that from that time forth, the forest would be a refuge for all the birds and all the animals, and especially for the stag who had saved his life.